right, guys, welcome back. We're working off of the same information from yesterday's problem. It's this one about the large theater complex surveying 5,000 adults. The results of the surveys are shown in the tables below, and they give us these two different tables. And then at the end, they mention that tickets are $9.50 for all regular showings and $7 for all matinees. So question 20 says, suppose all the adults surveyed happen to attend one movie each in one particular week. The total amount spent on tickets by those surveyed in that week was $44,000. How many adults attended matinees that week? All right, guys, go ahead and pause the video and work the problem. All right, so this is a great time to use guess and check, right? It's saying the total cost was $44,000 by these 5,000 adults, and we know that $9.50 would be the price for the regular showings, and that $7 is for matinees. So first things, if all 5,000 people went to regular showings, then I would do 5,000 times $9.50. So that's too much money, right? Because we know they spent 44,000. So it's not that all 5,000 went to that regular showing. Now, what if we assumed all 5,000 of those people went to the matinee? It'd be 5,000 times 7, 35,000. So we know it's got to be more. And since it's 44,000, that's a lot closer to this. So I think my answer is closer to 5,000 than it is not to than it is to 0 on the regular price showing. Because of that, I'm going to be able to sort of eliminate. I think there's more regular showings than there was matinees. So the question says how many matinees. So there should be less matinees because there was more regular showings. So by that logic, I'm going to cross out these here. Okay, it's good to do this if you can. Cross out answer choices that don't make sense. Okay. All right, so how do we actually guess and check? Well, I'm going to assume there's 1,400. Okay, so if there's 1,400 matinees, then there would be 3,600 regular showings. Okay, I just did 5,000 minus that 1,400. So if I take my 1,400 and I multiply that by the cost of a matinee, and I take my regular showings and multiply it by the cost of a regular showing and add those two numbers together, right? If I add those two things together, I'm going to get my total cost. So back to my calculator here. If I do 7 times 1,400 plus 3,600 times 9.5. Now notice I can do this because it's going to follow order of operations. I don't need to worry about parentheses here or any of that stuff. It's going to do the multiplication first, then it's going to do both multiplications first, and then it's going to add the two numbers. So when I do that, my total is 44,000. So that tells me that those numbers are correct, and I can ultimately answer my question. There was how many matinees? 1,400. Now, if that didn't work, I would try my 500. But I really want you to see the benefit of crossing out those three answers that didn't make sense, because I don't want to test 5 things in guess and check. I'd much rather test 2 things. So if you can eliminate answer choices, you always want to. Now, this is not the method that everybody would use. A lot of students would set up a system of equations. So you're going to define your variables, x and y, right? You need 2 variables because you're going to need 2 equations. Now, you don't have to use x and y. You could use m and r. That would actually make a lot of sense. M is the number of matinees, and r is the number of regulars. Okay? So if we set up our 2 equations, we know that the cost, there's going to be a cost equation, right? Because they keep mentioning money here. And then there's also an amount. Because I know that M is the number of people and R is the number of people, and they tell us there's 5,000 total people. So the amount of people is going to be your other equation. So your cost equation is actually a little tricky, but once you do a few of them, you'll get it pretty easily. It's 9.5 R plus 7M equals 44,000. Okay? Because if you think about it, you're doing $9.50 times the number of people that went to the regulars. You're going to add that to 7 times the number of people, right? It's basically what I did here. When I did the 7 times 1,400, instead of 1,400, we're going to use a variable there. Instead of 3,600, we're going to use a variable. Okay? That's your first equation. Your second equation is pretty simple. It says that R plus M has to equal 5,000. Because there's 5,000 people. So when you get to here, you can solve this system in a couple ways. You can solve for one of the variables and go and plug it in. That's probably what we're going to do here. Or you can use elimination if you can get the the coefficient numbers to be the same, but opposite. Like if I had a 9.5R and a negative 9.5R, I could add them together and they would disappear. Either way, we got to get it to one variable. So I'm going to go ahead and solve the second equation here for m. So I'm going to subtract r from both sides. So I get that m is 5,000 minus r. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace in my other equation where I found the m, because m is the same thing as 5,000 minus r, which means I can replace this m here with 5,000 minus r. So I'm going to write 9.5r plus 7 times m equals 44,000. So I'm writing the other equation, the one I didn't solve for. I'm going to rewrite it, but I'm going to leave a little bit of space, right? I said 7m and I said m, but I'm not going to put m. I'm going to put what m is equal to. And m is equal to 5,000 minus r. A little r in there, it's kind of hard to see. So now all I got to do is solve for r. So I go ahead and distribute my 7. I get 9.5r plus 35,000 minus 7r equals 44,000. And then I go ahead and combine my like terms. I get 2.5r, and then I subtract my 35,000 from both sides. And I get equals, that's going to be 9,000. Divide by 2.5. You get that r is equal to 3,600. So that's what 9,000 divided by 2.5 is. Then you just go back and you plug it into here. You plug in that r equals 3,600. You get 5,000 minus 3,600 gives you m equals 1,400. Now, guess and check looks great at this point, right? Like this is a lot of work. So don't be afraid to use guess and check. People dog it all the time. Like you're not very smart if you use that strategy, but I would argue that I could work this thing much quicker using guess and check than I could using a system. So either way, pick your favorite. But again, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and visit our website at tutoring-solutions.com. Thanks again.